What if the small 1993 1-cent coin hiding inside an old drawer is carrying a story that millions of people never stop to notice? At first glance, it feels completely ordinary. Just another tiny American penny with Abraham Lincoln on the front. Something people drop on the street without even bending down to pick up. But what if this little copper-colored coin was quietly watching one of the most important turning points in modern American history? Because the year 1993 was not just another year. America was changing. The Cold War had ended. Technology was beginning to reshape everyday life. And while the world rushed toward the future, billions of pennies were moving silently through American pockets, carrying hidden details almost nobody ever examined carefully. And the strange part is, some of those pennies are now worth far more than 1 cent. But why? That is where the mystery begins. The 1993 Lincoln cent was produced during a fascinating era for the United States Mint. Most people think pennies are all identical, but collectors know the truth is very different. Tiny differences in mint marks, condition, strike quality, and metal appearance can completely change the story of a coin. And sometimes, a single small detail can turn an ordinary penny into something collectors desperately search for. Imagine standing inside a noisy grocery store in 1993. Cash registers ringing, pennies sliding across counters, children throwing loose change into jars. Nobody cared about these coins back then. Yet today, collectors carefully examine them under bright lights and magnifying glasses, because hidden inside these tiny coins are clues from another time. The front of the 1993 penny carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln. His serious expression has appeared on American cents since 1909. But when you look closely, something feels powerful about it. Lincoln's face does not smile. It almost feels reflective, calm, distant, as if the coin itself is carrying memories from generations of American history. Above his head are the words, "In God We Trust." To the left sits Liberty, and beside Lincoln appears the date, 1993. Simple details, but simple does not mean meaningless, because millions of Americans touched this coin during a year full of uncertainty and change, and most never looked twice. Now here comes the detail many people ignore. Look beneath the date carefully. You may notice a tiny letter. Sometimes there is no mint mark at all. Sometimes there is a small D. That tiny letter changes everything. Pennies without a mint mark were made in Philadelphia. The ones marked with D came from Denver. At first, this sounds unimportant, but collectors know mint marks tell the hidden journey of a coin. Different mints create coins with slightly different appearances, strike qualities, and rarity levels. And over time, some versions survive far less often in high condition. That is where the hunt becomes exciting, because not every 1993 penny survived equally. Most were heavily used, dropped on sidewalks, thrown into vending machines, buried in jars for decades. But a few escaped circulation almost perfectly preserved. And those are the coins collectors dream about finding. Now turn the penny over. The reverse side shows the Lincoln Memorial. At first it looks tiny and ordinary, but then something incredible appears when you study it carefully. Inside the memorial, between the columns, you can actually see a tiny image of Lincoln sitting. Most people never notice this. Think about that for a moment. The same man appears on both sides of the coin. One portrait is large and obvious. The other is tiny and hidden deep inside the memorial design. It feels almost like a secret placed there intentionally for observant eyes. And once you notice it, you can never unsee it again. This hidden detail became one of the reasons people started looking at Lincoln cents differently. Suddenly, the penny was not just spare change anymore. It became miniature artwork. But the story becomes even more interesting when condition enters the picture, because in coin collecting, condition changes everything. A worn 1993 penny might only be worth face value, maybe a few cents at most. But if the coin still has strong original color, sharp details, and almost no scratches, collectors begin paying serious attention. Especially when the coin is professionally graded. Grading companies examine coins carefully and score them based on preservation. Tiny marks, invisible to normal people, can lower value dramatically. That is why two identical 1993 pennies can have completely different prices. One may be worth 1 cent. Another may sell for dozens or even hundreds of dollars in extremely high mint state condition, not because it is made of gold, not because it is ancient, but because surviving perfectly for decades is surprisingly rare. And this creates a strange emotional feeling among collectors. They are not only buying metal, they are buying survival. They are buying time frozen in perfect condition. Imagine a bright red 1993 penny sitting untouched since the year it was minted. No fingerprints, no scratches, no wear from pockets or cash registers. It becomes more than money. It becomes a preserved moment from history. And collectors love that feeling. But there is another layer to this story many people never think about. Pennies are deeply emotional coins. Unlike silver dollars or gold coins locked away in collections, pennies lived among ordinary people. Children used them for candy. Parents stored them in jars. Workers carried them during long, exhausting days. These coins witnessed real life. That emotional connection makes Lincoln cents special in a way larger coins sometimes are not. Almost everyone has touched one. Almost everyone has ignored one. And maybe that is exactly why discovering value inside a penny feels so powerful, because it reminds people that small things can matter. Now let's talk about errors. This is where curiosity becomes obsession for many collectors. Sometimes minting machines create tiny mistakes, off-center strikes, double images, misaligned dies, unusual surfaces. Most 1993 pennies are normal, but error coins from this year do exist, and collectors constantly search for them. Imagine finding a penny in your pocket that looks slightly strange. Most people would spend it immediately. A collector would stop instantly, because unusual details can transform a common coin into something memorable. And that possibility keeps millions of people checking their change, even today. Every penny becomes a question. Could this one be different? Could this ordinary coin be hiding something rare? That feeling never disappears from coin collecting. It is part treasure hunt, part history, part emotion. And maybe that is why Lincoln cents continue surviving generation after generation. But there is something even deeper hiding inside the 1993 penny story. Think about how many hands this coin may have passed through. A student buying lunch, a soldier returning home, a tired cashier working late at night, a child saving coins for a toy. The penny traveled through real human lives. And now, decades later, someone might hold that same coin again and wonder where it has been. That imagination gives old coins their soul. Collectors are not only studying metal, they are imagining forgotten moments. That is why even a 1-cent coin can feel strangely emotional, especially when you realize time moves faster than people expect. 1993 no longer feels recent. It already belongs to history, and every surviving penny from that year quietly carries a piece of it. Maybe that is why people suddenly look at old coins differently as years pass. A simple object becomes a doorway into another era. The music, the fashion, the fears, the hopes, all hidden inside one tiny coin. And perhaps the most fascinating part is this. Millions of 1993 pennies still exist. Some are sitting in jars right now. Some hide inside drawers. Some remain forgotten in old boxes nobody has opened for years. Most people will never notice them, but collectors keep searching anyway, because every coin carries possibility, not always huge money. Sometimes something even more valuable. A connection to history, a connection to memory, a reminder that ordinary objects can quietly survive while entire decades disappear. So the next time you see a small 1993 1-cent coin, do not look away too quickly. Hold it carefully. Look into Lincoln's face. Study the tiny memorial. Notice the hidden Lincoln sitting inside the columns. And then ask yourself one question. How many stories has this little coin already lived through? Because sometimes the smallest objects carry the biggest memories. And sometimes history survives in the palm of your hand.